Hello and welcome to Enid Plainsmen Football 2016. My special guest, Coach Steve Hayes. Coach, good to see you again.
See you too.
Seems like we were just here, right?
Yes, sir.
Is football year-round?
Football is year-round. It absolutely is year-round.
I think the last time we sat down here at the Enid Television Network studios, it was late November, and I said, well, come back and we'll talk spring football. And here we are at spring football, but I would have thought it was just a few weeks ago.
I know. It's crazy how fast it's gone.
Calendar goes really fast. So,
yeah.
Well, if you're not tuned into football, you say, well, okay, the Super Bowl's over and the pro football, that's all done. And we got baseball coming up and, of course, March Madness and basketball, things of this nature. Mm-hmm. But really, football can be a 12-month season for coaches and assistant coaches. So just tell our listeners, really, what happens in the off season? I think we have some ideas, but can you just really fill us in?
We, from the time our last game ends until our first spring practice, we have 85 workouts. And then in the summer, we'll have another 26 workouts. Then we'll have 10 days of spring football. And so it's 111 workout opportunities, 10 practice opportunities for 121 days of improvement from last season to this season, and our kids have been taking advantage of it.
So when you say 85 workouts, what does that mean? Just running up and down the field? Are we doing drills? Or can you kind of give us an idea what a...
Today was workout 44, and all of the previous 44 workouts have been either in the weight room or on the field working on strength, agility, straight line speed, conditioning, and we've gotten considerably stronger and considerably bigger. We've had a lot of success. The kids were excited when I told them last week that on Friday they were exactly halfway through the spring workouts and how much they've improved. I mean, it was exciting for them because they're like, wow, we've improved this much and we're only halfway there. And they were pretty excited about having another half to go because they can see the opportunity ahead of them. It's been great.
Well, Coach, had the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, last year to host Enid Plainsmen Football 2015, and Coach Hayes would come by every Monday and we'd kind of do a recap of the previous ball game and then talk about the upcoming opponent. Boy, it seemed like the season really went quick, and there was a trend of slow starts. I remember that. It seemed like there was slow starts for you guys to get going, but by the second half, you guys' offense was going. And it seemed like in the last few games, you ended on a high note. You were scoring quite a bit, defense making big plays. It was coming together. You could tell there was excitement among you and the assistant coaches and also the players. So since that time, at the end of the season, late November 2015 to now, here in 2016, what kind of improvements do you see overall?
You know, we have 10 kids who started games last year that have at least 2 more years left of eligibility. They can be starters for 2 more years.
You like that, I can tell by the look in your
I like it this year. It made it hard for last year, but it's exciting. And 2 of those kids have eligibility for 3 more years. And so we return a lot of experience, I think, which is exciting, especially at the quarterback position. We returned some experience there. And 2 weeks ago, we picked up a football for the first time, and it was like it was the week after the Putnam City West game. It was so much fun for the kids to be able to receive some instructions and then immediately be able to do what they had learned during the course of the season, as opposed to last year where it felt like we were still learning how to tie the shoelaces on our cleats, much less line up correctly. And so I'm excited. It's going to be a fun season.
Well, Coach, this is not on our programmed question, but I'm looking at the headdress. And I want you to explain to us again, because someone may be watching Plainsmen Football 2016 for the first time and not familiar with the character qualities of all of those feathers, but just explain to us again about the headdress and how that all came about for your team last year.
This particular decal pattern is an honor to have on your helmet, and it represents the fact that you've been a good leader and that you've met a certain standard of expectation to be able to have it on there. The kids earn a point for each decal. That whole headdress consists of 27 decals, and they earn 27 leadership points over the course of time. And when they do earn those 27 points, they're allowed to have a headdress on their helmet. And at any point in time, they don't live at the standard that's expected of them, that obviously that headdress can be removed as well. And so it's a reminder to them of who they represent and how important it is to represent well. represent it well and to lead a life of excellence. And it's been a very motivating factor for our kids. They take a lot of pride. They take a lot of pride in their helmet and what that headdress represents. It's been a great tradition that we started this last year.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because there is a rhyme and reason for everything that you do. And I appreciate, again, the opportunity to learn more about not so much developing the football skills of running and punting, throwing the ball, and catching the ball, but also some character work in there as well. You know, before the show started, Coach, we were talking a little bit about off season and so forth. And my question is, what do coaches, you've already talked about what the young people, your team is kind of doing in the off season. So what do your coaches do? And if you can, just share with me, like you did a few moments ago, that you got all the coaches together and you went to a special place down in Texas for a retreat, if you will. Tell us about that.
You know, there's ongoing professional development in the coaching industry. And you know, coaches are famous for sharing and pouring into one another, even on different staffs. It's a very generous profession as far as the men that are in it. And we were fortunate to be able to go to Texas A&M College Station this end of last week, meet with Noel Mazzoni, their offensive coordinator, who's a friend of mine. He came and worked with our kids at my former school for a couple summers a couple years ago, and we developed a great relationship with them, and we were able to hear some other quality coaches talk about how they run their programs, including Bill O'Brien with the Houston Texans. Just some tremendous collaboration going on over 3 days between coaches and trying to improve and share ideas and kind of bounce ideas off people and see what they thought. And it's a fun part of the off season as far as you're planning for your kids' skill sets the next year. You know, do you have a mobile quarterback who can run the football, or is he more of a pocket passer? We have to design your offense around that. You have a kid who can run the football well, or you have a lot of kids that are smaller but catch the ball well. And so, you know, you want to adapt what you do to your talent, because we can't go out there and sign free agents. We can't go draft anybody. We don't get to recruit. And so you need to adapt what you do to the kids that you have. And we've got a real good set of kids with skill sets I think will make for some fun offensive and defensive football next year.
You had shared with me off camera one of the experiences of that retreat, of meeting with or hearing the professional football coach of the Texans. Is it Bill O'Brien?
Bill O'Brien, yeah.
Bill O'Brien. And tell us the similarities of his philosophy dealing with professional football players and what you're trying to implement at the high school level.
Yeah, he gave us the privilege of being able to go through their first of the year meeting with the players and coaches and establishing the guidelines and culture for the Texans and previously the Patriots when he was the offensive coordinator there. And what was amazing to me is the similarities between the expectations of high school kids versus professional athletes. I mean, even down to the content of the music they listened to. The players were responsible for keeping their locker room clean. They had to be fully dressed when they stepped on the practice field. You know, the repercussions for being late to a meeting, the way they respect and treat one another. Their use of cell phones and where they're prohibited. They're not even allowed to have them on game day. And just, you know, a lot of times our kids look at the rules that we impose on them, they think, well, you're treating us like a 12-year-old. And the fact of the matter is that's the reality all the way through the profession, from high school to the professional level. As far as the expectation of the athletes, we're actually treating them like a pro.
When you have an opportunity to interact with other collegiate, even professional coaches, other high school coaches, are you able to kind of benchmark where you're at or really what you're doing? What are the other benefits of just kind of that networking opportunity with other coaches across the state or even, you know, in other states?
You know, a football program is so three-dimensional as far as the things that you work with and work on. You know, there's athletic development as far as strength training. There's speed development and athletic training as far as change of direction. There's X's and O's. There's small picture technique and fundamentals. There's big picture strategy. There's dealing with the kids relationally, dealing with coaches relationally, training your coaches. In our case, working with parents to bring the best out in kids. There's so many different dynamics that you can grow and become wiser and more experienced at. And so in the off season, we spent a lot of time looking at each one of those things, especially as it relates to our weaknesses the previous season. Well, we sat down at the end of the season, we evaluated what we did well, what we didn't do well. And, you know, this last year, there was a lot of things that we needed to improve on and really kind of identify what steps we're going to take to, number one, prepare ourselves to improve so that we can prepare the kids to improve. And it's been a good off season. been a full off season.
Well, let's talk spring football, but we need to do that in just a few moments. Thank you for joining us today on Enid Plainsmen Football 2016. We'll have more with Coach Steve Hayes right after this. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for Enid Plainsmen Football 2016. My special guest today, Coach Steve Hayes. Coach, tell us about spring football, the time frame for that, and basically what's the focus for the Plainsmen during spring football?
Spring football is an opportunity to practice in pads, and so you're able to do some things you're not able to do in off season. We'll offensively focus primarily on the run game and blocking the run game, pass protections, things that you can only do in pads that you can't do without them. And so that 2 weeks will be a heavy emphasis on running the football, pass protection, tackling, blocking, things that require pads. Whereas when we transition out of spring football into 7-on-7 this summer, we'll work more on throwing the football, running routes, things like that, as well as defending the pass. And so we've got it organized to meet what our resources will allow us to do.
You said summer. That leads into my next question. School's out late May, so you got June, July, and of course two-a-days start up in probably mid-August or a little before then. What happens during the summertime?
When school ends, that first week we'll go to a team camp. We'll compete with about 20 other teams in Mustang, padded up. It'd be almost like a version of fall football where teams are there practicing together, practicing against each other, scrimmaging each other. That's a 3-day deal the first week of June that's pretty important and pretty fun. And then we'll transition to weightlifting, running, and 7-on-7 the remainder of June and July as we transition towards August 8th and the start of practice.
Do you have to participate, as a young person, have to participate in the summer schedule and practices to play fall ball, or?
It just depending on the reasons why they don't participate.
Okay.
There's kids that have to go visit a parent that lives in another city
Sure.
because of a divorce situation or whatever, but we have very, very good attendance. Probably 90% of the kids attend 90% of the time would be pretty accurate.
I was wondering if a young person needed to work, how that...
It's a great question. We structure our workouts in the morning at 7 a.m., and so the kids are off and running by 8:45.
Okay, so that's
which allows them to have a job, and some of our kids do. And obviously, if they have to miss because they work or whatever, we allow for that.
Sure. Well, you mentioned at the beginning of our show today that you had 10 ball players coming back that were sophomores. I'm trying to remember. You said you were really excited about having
8 sophomores and 2 freshmen.
Some individuals coming back that had 2-3 years of experience or could play for you.
Yeah.
Why don't you kind of give us a rundown of your returning starters?
Okay.
Start with the offense, if you don't mind.
Offensively, at quarterback, Darian Goins is a returning starter at quarterback, and hopefully he'll continue to win that job in the spring. We're gonna compete for it again because I think that's important to improvement.
Sure.
We have 3 of our 5 offensive linemen returning, and so we'll need to fill Gavin Richmond and one other lineman's shoes, and then Chase Burrow, and then.
Excuse me. Do you have anybody the size of Gavin? I remember when he was at the studio one day, and he basically had to duck through the door to get in. He's a big boy.
Yeah, actually, there's a pretty good chance we'll be bigger in the line next year. We've got 3 kids right now tipping the scales at 300 pounds.
Incredible.
And so we're pretty excited. We're pretty excited about the kids we have coming back there. We'll have 2 returning receivers coming back in Colton Troxell and Brian Banks. And then defensively, 1 linebacker in Cross Bay. Several down linemen are coming back in Josh Faulkner and DJ Smith, Cody Slaughter, which is a great football name, Augie Pritchett. And so we have our whole front basically returning, 1 linebacker and 2 other good underclassmen linebackers that'll potentially fill the other 2 spots for the kids that graduated.
And then the special teams aspect of it. Punter, kickers.
Special teams, we had some big shoes to fill. Both our punter and our kicker graduate, and so we have a young sophomore that we're looking at from the soccer team that hopefully will perform the kicking duties for us. It's pretty talented. I feel like that he'll be a good replacement for the kids that we had.
Well, Coach, you mentioned the competition for the quarterback role and the importance of competition. Do you see any other position battles that will take place that you're kind of anxious to see the outcome of that?
You know, from a fill and shoes standpoint, it'll be interesting to see who our starting running back is.
Okay.
With Devin Pratt graduating in the role that he played last year. And so I think that'll be pretty important as far as somebody having to step up and fill those shoes, because he was pretty important to our success at the end of the season last year, gaining basically 300 yards a game for the last 3 games. And so that'll be some big shoes to fill. We have some young receivers that'll need to step up and fill some empty spots of kids that have graduated. In my opinion, every position can be won. You know, a returning starter on a 3-7 team is competing for his job still. You know, if we were 13-0 and won a state championship, that would be a little different situation. But right now, everybody needs to improve and get better.
You mentioned Devin Pratt, and he certainly was a workhorse for you, coming back from a tremendous knee injury and just really performing for you last year. Can you kind of quickly give us an update on your seniors? They've graduated. They're, where they want to go play football at? Is there a few that have signed to go to certain schools? Can you kind of give us that update?
Sure. Gavin Richmond has signed with Southwest Oklahoma State and is planning on playing there this fall, which is exciting for him. Right now, Devin Pratt had received a couple offers, but they weren't full ride offers, and he needed some potentially more financial aid. Well, it looks like McPherson College may potentially have been able to do that. He potentially could play there next year. Squire Logan is also looking at McPherson as well. Chase Levacy, who is the other lineman that we have that had graduated, is looking potentially going to junior college, Northeast Oklahoma, and potentially playing there this fall. And then that pretty much sums it. I mean, that's the kids we had that are probably capable of doing it at this point.
Well, I remember during Plainsmen football 2015, every Monday you would bring a student athlete to the studio, and I was introduced to some of these individuals, and I thought with their academics and their work ethic and just their desire to be more and do more, that I thought there's a good chance many of these young students will be going on and playing college ball.
Yeah, and definitely attending college as a student as well. I mean, I think Squire Logan is a great student, and when that he ends up playing next year, he will have a successful career as a college student, and look for great things out of him and other kids as well.
Well, Coach, we're near the end of the show, and I guess I have an open-ended question. What will there be any major changes, or I know you're going to adapt to what the skill level of the kids that you have. But is offense kind of sort of going to look the same, or defense the same, or is it too early to even say?
I think we have an opportunity offensively to be a little bit more complex, because we've established the foundation of what we do, and the kids know it now, which will allow us the freedom to do some more things, I think, and be a little bit more diverse. I think we'll throw the football more successfully next year than we did last year. Defensively in the front, we're going to be much bigger, and that's a big deal, because I felt like physically a lot of times we were outmanned, and I think this next season, given the results for offseason so far, we're going to be much more competitive in the defensive front side of the ball, which is one of the areas we really needed to improve, in my opinion. I thought that there were times that games were won or lost by our play there, and I think that will be the difference. Would have been the difference last year in us making the playoffs, and I'm assuming will be the difference this year in us making the playoffs. And so those two areas are pretty important. You know, we play a new schedule next fall too, because of a new district.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. You know, in 6A football, how does that change? Anybody new, or who are you going to play in fall 2016 that you didn't last year?
A couple changes. We have a 0-week game this year instead of starting week 1, which means we'll start playing games a week earlier, and that game will be against Guthrie, which I think in the past has traditionally been a rival. Then we'll have a week 1 game against Ponca City. We'll actually have a bye week to kind of catch our breath, and then we'll finish up our non-district against Bishop McGuinness, which is a new opponent. And I don't know that Enid's ever played them in varsity football, to be honest with you. And then district has changed a little bit in that we've lost Lawton Eisenhower, and we've picked up Putnam City and Edmond Deer Creek.
You don't seem too upset about not going all the way to Lawton.
Twice. Yeah, no, that's a good thing. And so we'll play Putnam City this year, and we'll play Edmond Deer Creek for the first time this year, and then the other district opponents remain the same, just the order's different. We open district with Putnam City West, which is the team we finished the year with, and so that'll be our first district opening, real game that matters right off the bat next year, which should be a good game. They have some good returning players as well.
Well, you've already toured Southwest Oklahoma, so you don't have to go back anymore.
Yes, the bus rides next year will be significantly shorter with no Tahlequah, no Eisenhower.
Even the Bartlesville trip.
Bartlesville, holy moly, yeah, that was a long way. With the rain, no less. That was a crazy night.
Rain delay. Well, Coach, it's good seeing you again. You haven't changed a bit, by the way.
Thank you. I feel like I have.
You feel like
I've aged 30 years.
Yeah. Well, Coach, thanks for coming by.
You bet. Thank you.
And stay in touch this summer, and we'll have you come back and give us an update, because this is Oklahoma. People are interested in high school football and other.
Yeah, that's why I love being here.
So, very good. Yeah. And thank you for being here with us on Enid Plainsmen Football 2016. Appreciate you taking time to watch today, and we encourage you to kind of just keep following the Plainsmen as they prepare for football that'll be here before we know it. Special thanks to Coach Steve Hayes for taking time to come by the ETN studios today. And again, thank you for watching Enid Plainsmen Football 2016. I'm Steve Keim. Until next time, make it a great day.